Welcome back to the Fantasy Price Check. Week 3 is now in the books, and it's now on to Week 4. Week 3 wasn't as bad as Week 2 in terms of injuries. Week 2 absolutely wreaked havoc on fantasy teams. The only notable season-ending injury that comes to mind is Tariq Cohen, who tore his ACL. There's not a lot of notable players available on the waiver wire, but there's one guy that I want you to check to see if he's available in your leagues. There just so happens to be an every down running back that's available in about 50% of Yahoo and ESPN leagues, and I'm talking about second-year running back for the Miami Dolphins, Myles Gaskin. I imagine that Myles Gaskin has been picked up in most leagues, but if he's available on your waiver wire, you need to be scooping him up. Before we get into Myles Gaskin, I need to ask you guys for a favor. Hit that subscribe button down below to help keep this channel growing. Let's get into Myles Gaskin. Myles Gaskin was featured by the Miami Dolphins against the Jacksonville Jaguars on Thursday Night Football, and he ended up with 27 touches for 95 total yards. He had 22 carries for 66 rushing yards and 5 receptions for 29 receiving yards. He's clearly the guy that the Dolphins are rolling with as their lead back. Through the first 3 weeks of the season, Myles Gaskin has averaged 67% of the team's offensive snaps, and last week he was at 75% of the snaps against the Jacksonville Jaguars. In terms of the Dolphins' other running backs, Matt Breida is taking 20% of the snaps and Jordan Howard is taking 10% of the snaps. So Myles Gaskin is clearly the guy for the Dolphins, and what I like about him is he has a 3-down skill set and is heavily used in the passing game. Through the first 3 weeks of the season, he's averaged 5.3 targets per game, which is exactly what you want to see. In Week 1 and Week 2, Myles Gaskin didn't get a lot of carries. In Week 1, he had 9 carries, and then in Week 2, he had 7 carries. However, he got 4 targets in each of those games and had at least 65 total yards in each of those games. The only problem for Myles Gaskin moving forward is lack of usage on the goal line. When the Dolphins are on the goal line, they go to Jordan Howard, who now has a rushing touchdown in each of his first 3 games for the Dolphins. And it's obvious why the Dolphins don't give the ball to Myles Gaskin at the goal line. Myles Gaskin is 5'9" and 205 pounds, and Jordan Howard is 225 pounds. So the unfortunate part about playing Myles Gaskin is that although you will be getting the yards and the receptions from him, you're not going to be getting many touchdowns, which is going to cap his upside. Through the first 3 weeks of the season, Myles Gaskin is the RB26, which makes him a high-end RB3. If you watched the Thursday night game, you saw how good Myles Gaskin looked. He did get stuffed at the line a few times, but overall he looked quick and elusive. He was able to make guys miss and pick up chunk yardage. I next want to dive into some background for this guy. Myles Gaskin was drafted by the Miami Dolphins in the 7th round of the 2019 NFL Draft. He played his college football at Washington and was extremely productive in college. He was a 4-year starter at Washington. He's the first freshman in Washington football history to rush for over 1,000 yards as a freshman, and he also holds a freshman record for most rushing touchdowns in a season. Check out his college stats from Washington. He has 4 straight seasons with at least 220 carries and 1,200 rushing yards, and he has a career yards per carry average of 5.6, which is outstanding, and he scored 62 total touchdowns. So with that type of college production, why did Myles Gaskin fall to the 7th round, and why weren't teams willing to take a shot on him in the 4th or the 5th round? I think it's just because he's undersized and he didn't have good testing numbers. He's 205 pounds but ran a 4.58 40-yard dash, which is not good for a guy his size, and he also didn't test well in the agility drills. So NFL GMs didn't view him as anything special. He profiles as a 3rd-down running back without elite speed, and his NFL comp is Giovanni Bernard. But what scouts praise him for is his vision, his instincts, and his patience, as well as his receiving skills out of the backfield, which is what was on display on Thursday night. He's a smart and natural runner with just enough speed to be able to make plays. I liked what I saw from Myles Gaskin on Thursday night. I don't think he's going to have a lot of huge games, but he's going to be able to consistently get you 15 carries for about 60 rushing yards and add 4 receptions for another 25 receiving yards on a week-to-week basis, which is going to give you a nice floor if you need to put him in your lineup as an RB2. Myles Gaskin is looking like the guy for the Miami Dolphins. He's looking like a guy that should be able to hit 1,000 total yards on 200 plus touches. The only downside is I don't see him scoring a lot of touchdowns. Myles Gaskin is underpriced. Pick him up if he's available on your waiver wire. Guys, if you enjoy this price check, give it a thumbs up. If you missed our last price check on Joshua Kelly, I'm going to be throwing up his price check right over there, so be sure to check that out. And don't forget to subscribe below. I'll see you guys on the next one.